She is a woman without a name. You walk by her in the grocery store. You might shield your children from her appearance because, after all, her otherness is quite embarrassing. She is the woman who finally falls asleep when the sun rises because she has been working all night. This woman will most often never have the luxury of evoking compassion in a passerby. Her home is 6-inch stilettos, climbing a pole, and being put on display for the sake of $1 bills. Most of us, driving down Central, passing this woman in her short skirt and high heels, would not label her a victim, chained invisibly to her pimp by 3 strong links called force, fraud, and coercion. Instead, most of us would refer to her as a prostitute. And in that, she is guilty without ever being given the chance to be proven innocent because she is associated with the sex industry. And she will remain guilty even if she is one of the lucky ones, saved by some small chance that someone out there knows her plight and understands her story. I was 17 when I was first introduced to the sex industry by means of what most people would call exotic dancing. I will be the first to tell you that there is nothing exotic about this particular line of work. I owned and carried a black duffel bag that became home to stilettos that most people would consider an adequate means of torture, clothing items that women reserve for tender moments with their lovers, and all the makeup needed to transform young 17-year-old girls into people they never knew they could become. Like the other hundreds and thousands of women and children exploited by the sex industry each year, those stilettos eventually hit the pavement and became a means to making a quota. And that makeup, it covered all the bruises that appeared as a result of never quite fulfilling expectations. As I became further exposed to the industry, that black duffel bag filled itself with contents tangible and intangible that would eventually become extremely heavy. 3 years later, at age 20, I was saved from sexual exploitation by a joining of forces that united on my behalf. One of those forces now calls me her mommy. It is because of her that I was able to confront all of those intangible items I carried in that black duffel bag. Things like trauma, fear, addiction, and the unforgettable feeling of being utterly and completely worthless. It took 2 years to resume any type of normalcy. And even now, 6 years later, I work constantly at improving and taking care of all of those things that I lost during that 3-year period. I eventually went on to study social work and become a human trafficking advocate in hopes of representing formerly nameless women like me. Upon graduating with my bachelor's degree, I became the proud owner of a beautiful black briefcase gifted to me by my father. In it were resumes, certificates, and letters describing my accomplishments. I carried this briefcase to the very first conference I would ever present at, in which I was to tell my story and raise awareness for women being exploited by the sex industry. When that was over, just as I was walking out, a gentleman approached me. He offered me an interview for a job on the spot. I was so excited. A week later, I went to this gentleman's office, this black briefcase in tow. I sat across from him at a conference room at a small table. He asked me, "Roslynn, what do you think you could bring to this company?" I spoke to him about women exiting the sex industry and about the lack of acceptance and understanding they are faced with every day. I was on fire and representing to the fullest the work I wanted so much to be an instrumental part of. When it was over, thoughts raced through my head. Should I call them? Would they call me? Instead, I heard a statement I know I will never forget. He said, "Roslynn, you have all the qualifications, but I think my employees would be uncomfortable working with someone associated with the sex industry." It was in that moment that I was once again transformed into that nameless woman carrying everything she thought she needed in a bag. I had thought that by replacing my duffel bag with the briefcase, I could rid myself of its contents as well. I didn't understand that no matter what I did, what new skills I acquired, I would always carry those pieces of me that would sometimes make other people uncomfortable. And for each of you in the audience today, this is where the challenge lies. We all carry a bag. With contents, we can't always change. We have all been through things that have shaped who we are and what we stand for passionately and unwavering. I brought my black briefcase here with me today because not only does it represent the ability to carry a new life proudly, it represents the idea that in one of these compartments there are pieces of me that had never seen the power of social justice. That was until I took all the items I can never replace and gave them new names. Things like trauma, fear, addiction became a foundation of hope, faith, and possibility. This foundation is now encompassed in one name. One name I gave an experience so that you, I, and that nameless woman in the grocery store could carry our strength proudly and stop hiding it in a bag because we have all overcome something. Please stand with me. Celebrate the most beautiful name you and I as human beings will ever carry. Say with me, I am a survivor. Thank you.